Welcome to the Retail Tech Podcast. Today I am speaking with Eric Helgesen and Stephen Preuss from a company called PayMore, which is in the electronics resale space. Hi, Eric. Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Doing great. Looking forward to chatting today with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great to meet you. Let's start with a brief intro for each one of you.
Sure. I'll start. Stephen Preuss. I am CEO and co-founder, along with Eric, of the PayMore Group. I serve and focus on more of the business side and aspects of PayMore Group, everything from the accounting to legal to business expansion to the real estate and so on. We have been franchising now, PayMore, for about 5 years, but we have a very long history together that we started 21 years ago in 2004.
Eric Helgesen, co-founder, president of PayMore Stores, responsible for the technology that you see there, the operations, and the overall, getting things done in the company, right? So we've had a long history here, but we've taken this industry and we've turned it upside down with technology and not doing things twice, and that's been my position here.
Fantastic. Definitely seems like a cohesive team, complementary skills, which is
We
really
think
good.
so.
Let's talk about the company. When did Paymore start? How did it get to where it is? And what kind of growth have you seen?
Yeah, sure. And we think this is kind of part of our secret sauce. It's not something that we started overnight. We started, as I mentioned in the introduction, back in 2004 together. So it's been a 21-year partnership for us. We weren't exactly PayMore at that point in time. We weren't focusing on electronics. Actually, Eric and I got together, became partners, and started working in a secondhand store that we started in Long Island, New York. So that was our first experience with the secondhand industry, which is an important part of the story, because that is really part of our thesis here at PayMore, not only with electronics, but really to elevate the secondhand experience to a more acceptable part of people's everyday shopping habits. So we started that initial store in 2004. We ran it for several years. I think we've coined a line that we did more wrong than we did right at that point in time. We made all our mistakes, but in 2009-10, we really narrowed down our focus and our business because we saw some green shoots we wanted to really focus on. Number one, obviously, being electronics. It was our most volumed item coming in the store. And at that point in time, we were taking everything. Anything we could take in and flip for a dollar, we would take it in. Electronics was the most active item coming in. It was really changing at that point in time from a need to a necessity, right? Everyone had to have a smartphone or an individual laptop. So we saw that dynamic right in front of us. And I think that the one point that put us over that we really wanted to focus on electronics is the customers and the conversations with those customers. People love the idea, even back then, and that was 16 years ago, that people loved coming into our store and being able to have optionality in the electronic space, right? Because it's everyone's most important commodity. It's really the most expensive commodity outside of housing and their vehicle. They were coming into our store, being able to buy, last year's version, being able to buy, sell, and trade in electronics, really empowering them instead of going into a big box store and getting tied up into a contract, having to buy new or getting caught up in a gift card racket. So we saw that was a big need then. So we narrowed down our focus to deal with the secondhand electronic space. The other part of it was the secondhand space, as I mentioned. We really wanted to take the stigma away of dealing with a secondhand store. Most people think of a pawn shop when you say a secondhand store, and they still do. And we really wanted to make an elevated experience, clean stores where, the soccer mom can come in and feel comfortable with her kids, trading in some items, getting cash in hand in a safe, secure space and get them in and out quickly. So we took those two principles, really, disrupting the secondhand space in a grand fashion, and being the place where the local community can go to and deal in secondhand electronics. So that's when we really put the idea together for PayMore. We started PayMore. We rebranded in 2011. We opened a new store in Massapequa, New York, which is still our corporate store today. And we were off and running. The last piece of the puzzle was the technology. Lucky enough, Eric, is a coder, and that's his background, and we really couldn't find anything off the shelf that was good enough for us. So he basically created our entire technology stack, which is now a full-serving operating system, and is really the spine of everything that we do in our store. It's been 15 years fully customized and proprietary. We own all of the technology, which we can get into on this conversation. So in 2011, PayMore Stores was born, and we have the technology that was in place. We ran that store, that one store, for another 7 years. We picked our heads up, and we were doing phenomenally well out of a store that we probably wouldn't approve in our franchise today because it's not a kind of an A or B space. But we had great repeat customer rates. We never spent a dollar in marketing, outbound marketing, that is. We had lines out the door in some, circumstances. So I looked at Eric and I said, listen, we unlocked the code here. We have something that, this community really is attaching to, and I think we can expand it. I have a very high level background in capital markets and investment sales on the commercial real estate side. So I looked at Eric and I said, let's expand. We took another year or so to see who our competition was. We couldn't find anything nationwide. So I looked at Eric again. I said, listen, I think this is a first mover advantage. We should go larger than just opening another store in Long Island or another store in across the river in New Jersey. Let's try to really expand this nationwide. So we chose the franchising route in 2020. We started opening stores in different markets and city markets like Brooklyn and Manhattan, suburban markets in North Carolina, and a few other stores, and they all were doing phenomenally well. And we really pushed the lever on franchising and brought in the right support team. And we went from one store, from Long Island, that store in Massapequa. We're actually opening up our 100th store next week. So we went to 100 within a few years. We have another 400 plus that have signed up to open up, which is very exciting over the next 4 years. And we've even gotten to international use. We have several stores in Canada, over in the UK and Europe. US is obviously our main focus. And we should have about 150 stores open this year. And we're opening about one store every 2 to 3 business days. So it's been a great ride. All the communities are really embracing that our buy, sell, trade of electronics in that elevated retail fashion. And we think we've really created new age retail where we have the customary brick and mortar locations, but we are completely and totally infused by data, technology, and e-commerce. So we think that's really the new balance of today's retail.
Wow. I love that last phrase you mentioned, the new age of retail, which is really, it's more profound than just the word itself. There is a new age in retail, and it's completely different. We'll talk about it more maybe in the when we get to the technology. And also, like, just really impressed by how patient you've been and you've learned seriously. It's like a lot of times, and maybe it has to do with you didn't raise outside capital. You grew organically, and that gave you time to find that product market fit and then scale it. So I think this is a really good example of how patient entrepreneurs can actually build something big if they stick with it, right? So it's just that patience is kind of like hard to find sometimes.
You have to make the mistakes and really get those bruises for us to put together the technology stack that we have, right? So it's not only did it take us 20 years to do it, but it's 20 years of making those mistakes. And Eric's always a big advocate of automating it and not making the same mistake twice. So that's why I think our franchising system is so palatable and performs so well, is because we had those 15 years to make sure that we got it right before we took on that second store.
So let's talk more about the resale business in general. So it's also like definitely fitting that you started with everything, not just electronics. So I'd love to get your thoughts on what is resale today in 2025 with the probably global forces that are at work beyond our control? And how do you see it growing in the next maybe through the end of this decade?
Yeah, so we've been scaling very quickly. That's in part due to the volume of the trade-ins and the retail and the purchasing and sales. We're seeing a large uptick in trade-ins, but we're seeing a massive amount of retail coming back to our stores. As Stephen mentioned, we're very heavily involved online in e-commerce, but people are turning back to pre-owned devices or they're discovering them for the first time. And I think that's due in part to one, the way that we operate and the way that we've built in our communities and given these consumers a fair, easy way to buy, sell, and trade comfortably and safely, but also because of the global forces like the tariffs and other things that are making these devices more expensive. So people are really starting to see that they can save, they can reduce emissions, and they can buy something with a great warranty locally and support a local business like a PayMore store. As time goes on over the next several years, we see the secondhand stigma fading, and we see the need for this trustworthy relationship that we've been working on and building over the country here.
Do you think that electronics are specially like positioned to be easier to do resale than other type of products?
I mean, that's hard to say. I know that electronics have become part of our bodies at this point. I mean, everyone's walking around with a phone, everyone has a tablet, or just about everybody. You need it for school, you need it for work. The kids are getting on these things even younger nowadays. They're not putting them down. And even grandma and grandpa have phones and technology like the Apple Watches and such that are moving in a medical fashion. So, you know, it's not that it's easier to resell. It's just that the demand is there, and the value is there. These devices hold value, even if they're, you know, scuffed or scraped. And if we can get them into someone else's hand, and not into a landfill, and we're doing our part as well, saving people money, giving them accessibility to devices within their price range, and preventing new devices from being created with those emissions.
I think it's a progression as well. As I mentioned, you know, the kind of the commodity aspect of it. You know, if you look at housing and autos, which are the, you know, highest price commodities, maybe not even the most used compared to electronics, but you know, not everyone can build a brand new home or go out and buy a $100,000 brand new car, right? It's already acceptable to buy, you know, an existing house or a pre-owned car. It was never really, you know, fully aware that you can do that at a kind of a franchise, regimented, accepted level, that you can go out and buy pre-owned electronics, right? You always had to buy from big box. You always had to trade it in and then get, you know, put into a two-year new program with whatever carrier that you had. So I think it's really eye-opening that you can go to a safe, secure place in your neighborhood, that you can go and buy, you know, pre-owned with a warranty. You could trade in and take that cash and do whatever you want with it. So that empowerment, that education, and now the adoption is happening right in front of us, right? And we talked about the different types of retail these days, and I think, you know, a lot of people know that they can go online and maybe trade it into one of these, you know, companies that you can do an online trade in, but you know, that is not comfortable for everyone, right? People don't know if they're wiping their device properly, and you're sending it to somebody you don't know, you know, somewhere in the other part of the world or internationally that may not wipe your data off there properly. There's a natural retrade that's going to happen, right? Because you're describing the item to them, and you know, most people don't know how to describe the phone or whatever application they have on that electronic. Or in, you know, human nature, they're going to overestimate it, and then when it gets to that person 2 weeks from now, wherever he's sitting or she is sitting, you know, they're saying, hey, you don't have what you said, and there's a retrade there. And then, you know, if there is that renegotiation, do you really want to pay for the shipping back? So that process, which I think is kind of the leading way that people have done this, you know, is secondary in our mind, obviously, to where somebody can go in that day, speak to someone who's educated in a nice, a minimalistic, you know, store and a better storefront. You know, stuff is not piled everywhere. We're specializing in electronics, and then with our technology, which we'll get into, we've put together a proprietary trading system where somebody can come in and find out exactly what we can pay and why and get a fair deal, and then walk out with cash, a few minutes later. And then we know what we can resell it for on what platform, the next minute. So we've created this, comfortability, and this trusted place that somebody can go to that they get cash, not have to worry about trading in or retrade, and we wipe the data for them in front of them, so they know that it's gone on that execution, and then walk out within 6 to 8 minutes. So now that people are realizing that, and yes, we have 100 stores now, but we ended the year with 40 stores. So, we're getting that more critical awareness where that organic growth, that education and adoption is happening. So, we think we've touched all of that, and that's the much more difficult way to do it. But that's the way that we see the real adoption, and kind of the customer loyalty going forward. Once they come into our store, I highly doubt, and we've seen it, that someone's ever going to mail someone off to some unknown person somewhere from an online ad. So that's where we see this retail going. And I think, one more component to that, to Eric's point, where more people are realizing and accepting doing secondhand business. We see stats all the time where we track them accurately. That's, from 64% all the way up to 90% of people would shop secondhand. 90% of those people don't know where to do it in a safe, comfortable, fair place. So, it's just about that education, and we're seeing it in the communities that we're in. And now that we're having that critical mass moment, we think, in about a year to 18 months, that people will think of secondhand electronics. They're going to think of PayMore the same way they think of coffee to Dunkin' Donuts.
Very interesting. The physical retail and the human connection, there is something to be said for that. Making that connection is probably something that you pay attention to in the people that you hire, and the training is how they handle customers, how they build a rapport. Is that a part of your training and hiring practices?
Absolutely. It's part of the PayMore pillars. But it starts with our franchisees. So Stephen and I have met and spent time with every one of our franchisees. They're like family to us. We've only brought on the best, and we've said no a lot. And that's hard to do when you're scaling a franchise, to say no. But they have to be a good person, and they have to want to do good and align with their visions. And what that does is that trickles down. They hire good people. They instill the vision, they follow up, they make sure that they're taking care of the customers. In the secondhand industry, this isn't something that's happening. Pawn shops, other secondhand style shops, they're not focusing on the customer, the experience, the retention, and doing good for the community. So they're just trying to get someone in and out and make money. And that's been the pawn industry for a long time. And we came into this with a different view. We want to help people, we want to reduce e-waste, and we want to be that pillar in the community that provides that fast, easy, safe trade of electronics all in one spot.
Is the cell phone the number one item that people buy and sell?
It varies by region. Video gaming has been a big one for us. So I would say, the handheld devices and the video gaming is definitely on the top list.
Yeah, I think it's important to know we're a portfolio buyer. So, maybe stores that have, this service that they buy, they'll probably only purchase the top 4 or 5 items, right? The iPhone, the certain laptop. So we're a portfolio buyer, meaning that we'll buy any electronic, anything you can plug in or put a battery into, even if it's broken. So we'll buy new items, pre-owned, broken items, and really anything in between the electronic, space. So that gives also flexibility to the customer, where they may not have new in packaging, they may not have the power cord, they may have broken screen. We take everything, so that allows full optionality that people can bring in that entire basket of electronics, and we'll put a value to it. And for some reason we can't put a value to it, we're recycling drop-off centers, so we'll recycle responsibly for them.
How do you handle all of these things that may not even be in demand? And that probably plays into your business model on how the whole cycle works. So maybe if you can go into that a little bit.
Yeah, so that's really where the technology comes to play, is that We have a vast database, an ongoing and live database that continually prices and reprices and gives the data back to the franchisee or the staff member, the team member that's dealing with the customer to quickly identify the things that do have value and the things that don't. And the things that don't have value, we're able to, again, recycle for free for the customers. We usually give them a gift card if they come in with a bag of things that we can't take, just so they didn't waste their time. We understand that, and we don't want to waste anyone's time, but we want to try to attach value to as many things as possible. But we're able to get through a bag or a box of devices very quickly based off the technology and the catalogs and the live database we've put together. Everything has a home for us, right? From a recycle bin all the way to the retail to our shop.paymore.com. You can go on paymore.com, click the buy button. You can see thousands and thousands of devices, all new, being added every second from over 100 stores. So you can find something that you're looking for, from something nostalgic all the way up to the new iPhone or a new MacBook. So our system is able to dictate where the best place to put that is, whether that's on one of our channels, whether that's in retail, whether that's something that goes out to a professional buyer, something that may be broken. We're able to triage these things in real time as they come in. This is part of a multi-phase commitment that we've made as a company. The first part of it is to roll out these stores to make recycling more accessible for the communities, so they don't just throw something away. Let's make the impact first. Let's get these things recycled properly and the chemicals out of our communities. Which now that we're at that almost 100 store mark, we've done a few million pounds of recycling, and that's being a yearly number now. So we're making a big impact. The phase two is to be able to kind of get into that middle market there to make sure that these devices are being either repurposed or they're put in the right areas for that rare earth minerals. We have a big roadmap to take over the e-waste industry, if you will.
I love that. Where do you see PayMore in 10 years?
I think we'll be one of the biggest recyclers and biggest parts of changing a sustainable outcome and what we're looking to do as a planet and changing these things in a positive way. That's where I see it.
What are the challenges in finding the right people or the organizations to represent you and replicate your model?
That's a great question. And I think part of that elongated process that we took to get the franchising, 16 years before we actually brought on anybody else, it defined a clear vision on who we want. It defined, to use your word previously, patience. This is our baby, right? This is something we've built since we were much younger, and it's something that we're going to have until we're much older, right? So if it takes us another 20 years to build it properly, we're okay with that. I think, we don't have any institutional people behind us or, private equity partner. It's Eric and I. And that allows us to have nimbility on how we build this out and to be able to follow our vision without any undue pressure. So Eric and I have made it a point from the beginning to meet all of our franchisees in person, even though I have my different roles and he has his different roles, and we're a very balanced partnership because he has certain strengths that I don't and vice versa. But we come together, we come to the same funnel once it comes to our franchisees because we know what we've built, the ambiance of our company. And we know that if we start picking the wrong people, that can fracture, the last 20 years. So we take that very, very seriously. We're hands-on together through that entire process of bringing in the right people. We've learned that there are a few things that really help bringing those right people in. Obviously, number one, you have to be a good person, right? And that is number one, first and foremost. Secondly, people who have scaled before, and maybe franchises, and maybe human capital, like building sales teams or what have you, as an example. So people who have scaled something previously in their life, and really people who have listened to some extent, right? Because we've built this process. We're one of one. No one else does what we do. No one else does it as a franchise process. No one else has done it for 20 years. No one else has all these stores. So we've built a lot of checks and balances and automated out a lot of the issues. So we want somebody in here that's going to follow the system. It may sound simple, but people have a natural tendency to start going in a different direction or adding in things that they think are better or that they think they know better. So we want people who have shown and who we believe will listen to the process. Now we want them to be entrepreneurs. We want them to go out and build their business. But as far as the logistical systems and processes, we really have that down point, and we have support in place where people have been in the industry with us since day one that support these stores. So we want them to trust in our processes, and we want them to go out and build their businesses, go out and make those B2B relationships, go out and, continue to look up for their second store or their third store and be a pillar in their community. So, people that listen to the process, people have scaled before, and most importantly, good people. And, we're lucky enough to now having over 100 franchisees. We've hit the mark for just about all of them.
Do they need to have any technical skills?
Great question again, but no, we have systems and training in place and the technology that allows somebody to walk in and really embrace our system from day one. Maybe the general manager or the person who works at front of the house that are talking to the customers that come in, you want them to have a bit of a passion with electronics. A lot of these 20 and 30-year-olds, this is what they know and love. So it's almost rhetorical to say, people that come into our system, they've grown up with technology. As far as the people who are working the store, that's what they know best, and it's passion of theirs. That's why our retention level with our labor is so sticky, if you will, because once people come here, they much rather be, either kind of making deals for electronics or playing around with electronics and gaming, opposed to maybe making hamburgers at a hamburger joint or changing oil at an oil changing place. And they love being here. They're empowered because we only work with 3 to 4 people per store. That's our employee base, because the technology does most of the heavy lift. So they're empowered with their own area in the store. They really love what they do. It's a passion for them. So not necessarily that they need to be a technology expert. Especially our franchisees, who are kind of running the stores and building the businesses. Most of them have come from food. I think 60 to 70% of our franchisees, depending on what month it is, have come from some multi-unit food franchise before, and are looking for a more simplistic model and easier lift, as they build their portfolio.
Let's move a little bit more into the technology side. A lot of retailers traditionally, I work with all kinds of different retail. And one of the challenges that we've had, and it's getting better in some areas, is how the management looks at technology as a cost or as an investment or as like a superpower. And it seems to me that you've focused more on technology being a part of your superpower. So I'd love to learn more about how did you come about that realization.
That's a great question. So when we first started the business way back when we were very busy, had a lot of things coming in. We were buying things off of we were making little PDF files and spreadsheets and trying to stay organized. And once we knew we had something there, and Stephen was like, "Hey, let's scale this." We really hit the drawing board and said, well, how do we make this consistent? Because this isn't going to work. So we're running macros back and forth on spreadsheets, and it was just really clumsy. And I said, you know what? In order to stay consistent for the customer, for us, for legal purposes, for compliance, we need something together here that's going to be able to stretch across 1 or 2 or 3. I never would have thought 100 stores at that point, to make sure that we're staying organized, we're staying compliant, but also that we're adding value to the consumer interaction. And that's something that we really focused on as well. So putting that first iteration together is when we realized the need for that. And we said, you know what? Technology, and this was 15, 20 years ago, technology is already becoming the backbone of things. This has to be a technology first business. And we looked around in the secondhand industry, and we were in many different types of shops and doing our research, and it just lacked that form of focus. And that's exactly what you're saying. I guess I don't want to say the older management style, but it looks at technology as something ancillary to the business process, but it's not. And that changed long ago. So getting ahead of that, we built this company technology first and data first many, many years ago. So we've been collecting the data, we've been building the technology. As Steven mentioned earlier, that we had to go through these kind of hiccups and bruises because you can't sit down from a development standpoint and kind of white paper everything and say, this is where we're going to start and this is where we're going to end up. You have to go through building version 1 up to building version 100 with those mistakes and those those bruises to be able to get to a product that somebody can walk into, like our franchisees, and start doing business right away with. So we've been doing that since the beginning. It will always remain our number one investment, and it'll always remain tied directly to the customer experience. So we don't come out with something that's going to help a franchisee without looking at it and saying, how can we also help the customer experience with the franchisee, with growing the business for everybody?
On the technical side, when you started, let's say 15 years ago, can you walk me through the actual stacks that you were on?
I mean, well, I could start all the way back. I learned how to program on Visual Basic. I'm self-taught. I never went to school for this. Something that became a passion of mine. I was playing around over the years and continually grew with that object-oriented programming. The first PayMore stack was a blend between ASP.NET and then .NET C#. We continued to grow that, and then we've had several rewrites because you have to stay current. So we got out of SQL and that attachment, and we continued to grow into now. I'll kind of skip the in-between stacks because they're relevant. It was PHP, and then all these different things that had security issues, and we couldn't scale correctly. And then we landed on AWS, and we're in a MERN stack, and we're powered by Mongo on the back and React and native. So we are now on this full container-based stack across multiple different projects. When we got here about 3 years ago, we had 11 different stacks communicating between different webhooks and APIs, and we rewrote everything to bring it now into the PayMore OS, which is all, again, on that containerized, self-replicating AWS servers that are now in North America, but also over in the United Kingdom. They're separated out because of the GDPRs and all these different regulations. So we've built quite the stack now that encumbers everything that we do.
I think to translate that into business speak, that's our moat, right? So this 20-year journey, this investment, this customization, the data that we have for cash values for pre-owned electronics, nobody has any of this. So that to us, that's our moat, and that's why we're many, many years ahead, if not, light years, because no one can come into our business, our space, and just as Eric said, white paper it or try to build to what we're doing without going through it, without the investment, without the data, without the 100 stores,
and without the patience to go through the mistakes and not give up. Let's talk a little bit more about how that moat translates into a competitive advantage in front for the customers. A lot of times when we talk about technology internally, we're making things more efficient and this is good and that's all great. But how does it actually change the customer experience?
So I think the biggest upside for the customer, there's a number of them, but it's getting a fair trade-in value if we're speaking about trading in quickly. So when they come into a store, I think the average secondhand transaction could be up to 45 minutes to an hour, right? So we're able to get them in and out quickly, but give them a fair price right on the spot. And that price comes from hundreds of other buys and sells that are happening in real time across all of our stores, really tailored down to that make, that model, even to the color and the attributes, like a gigabyte or a storage size, whatever it may be, all the way down, refining to that price and saying, hey, this is a fair price. As a team member, I can see this on the other side of the screen. This is what is the going rate for this. And then also when they're coming in to buy something, we don't have any prices on any of our devices in our stores. We have iPads set up and we have web stores because these prices are dynamically changed to make sure that the customer is getting the best deal possible. So if you do end up on paymore.com and you look through our products that we're selling, you can compare those all over the place to big tech and other sites. That's the best price you're going to find on that. And we at least try to make that happen 9 times out of 10. So I think having the technology in place and the way that we've architected it and the speed and the resiliency of it, plus all of the data that we've been building and putting together in real time, is giving the customer a huge competitive advantage coming in and saying, you know what, this is a great price. we're going to wipe it for you. You're going to get this right now, right today. You're not going to have to meet somebody in an alley or meet up on Facebook Market or something like that. This is the price. Here it is. And when they're purchasing it from us, this is the price. Here it is. It's fully wiped. There's no viruses on it. It's perfect. It's here. And if it's not, we'll take it back, and we'll take care of you. So that's really the competitive advantage, I believe, for the customer with what we've built.
So it's almost like, first of all, speed is one factor. The other one is trust and security in feeling that
Right.
you are being given. And I mean, I know this firsthand myself, is like the biggest question people have when they want to sell their items is, how much is this worth? And am I giving it away for below what I should really get? And I think that's really interesting that for electronics, you're almost building like a stock market tracking
Correct.
system where you're dynamically, depending on like almost real time data, you have the pulse of what the pricing should be. That's
Correct.
very interesting.
It's our own marketplace, right? And we're building the biggest
Yeah.
marketplace out there for electronics. And as I said before, and as Eric alluded to, like no one else has these, cash values for all different types of electronics, and we're getting stronger and stronger every store we open. All the more data that we're feeding into it, and we try to track a stat. It's difficult to find one that's relative to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, which is really disrupting the secondhand industry, making it an elevated experience, and trying to make it acceptable to the masses, whether in their weekly or monthly shopping habits. So this is a stat called the repeat customer rate that we've been tracking. And we track ourselves against the entire secondhand industry. So think pawn shops and any other firm that's out there that doesn't have our technology and our customer first approach and our beautiful stores. So the secondhand industry is really like a two-star industry, right? It goes back to people not focusing on the customer experience, investing in tech, and so on and so forth. So most other stores have a repeat customer rate that's less than 8%, meaning they go to that vendor, that store, and they actually come back and use them again. It's less than 8%, which is pretty paltry. With a PayMore store, we're tracking now in the 70s% per repeat customer rate, meaning that we're 10xing our entire, our entire space. I don't want to call them competition, but our entire space. And that's really because of the simplicities that we mentioned, nicer stores, customer first experience. Think about ourselves like a modern, pre-owned Apple store. If you've never been into one of our stores, we get them in and out very, very quickly, 6 to 8 minutes as opposed to 50 minutes in a secondhand transaction. And then the complexities are all the tech that drives all of those, different avenues and the expedient nature of how we execute. So, we're doing that on a store by store basis when we're relatively unknown. So I think, again, once we get to a more of a critical mass, which is staring us in the face, it's not too far away. We can touch it and feel it at this point in time. That 70%, when you add in a greater awareness, could be 90%. Which would be, almost 100% above, where, our competitors and our spaces.
Let's talk about generative AI.
I mean, we've had AI infused here for several years. We rely on forms of it, machine learning particularly. But it's clearly a future. We're not shy about it. A lot of the things that we're doing, we have a great convention coming up for the franchisees that we're revealing some really big things and some strides that we've made. As developers, we look deeper than what's off the shelf and what's out there and available to others. And we have quite the roadmap and quite the accomplishments that we've already made and some breakthroughs that unfortunately we can't speak about on here. But just know that this is going to further increase the customer experience, and it's going to fundamentally change how secondhand devices and other items are exchanged on a local level.
You see right now, people can go to ChatGPT having a conversation. Do you think that's going to be something that your customers may want in the future?
Yeah, so we have that internally. That's part of how we scaled so quickly. We have internal bots that have been learning from our support agents and staff and franchisees. And as we mentioned, we don't like to do things twice. That's a big play on that. So we were able to continue to grow this company and do these things with smaller teams because of that. But we do have customer-facing bots that we haven't released yet. The biggest thing, and for anyone listening here today and that may be exploring AI or afraid of it or embracing it, I mean, you know that AI is everywhere, but it requires data. And we have that data, and we've been collecting that data. So to capitalize on AI in any business, you need to have the data. And if you're buying the data, you're not really capitalizing on the AI. So we're very excited for what we have and what we're releasing.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. We are also in the shopping space, and I see a lot of AI shopping apps being created, and all they do is they're buying data. They're just tapping into
Uh,
existing APIs that everybody else has access to as
It's
well.
become a pet peeve of mine getting into AI discussions because of that. I mean, you can use AI to create an AI agent that uses the same
Yeah,
sources. So,
exactly. Like
yeah,
Cursor, I mean, there are all these like lovable, these are apps that you just go and say, build me an AI shopping agent. What's the defensibility of that?
who has the
So,
data is the question.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
So how big is your team, Eric?
We have about a 10-person corporate team here. But again, as we spoke about earlier, we brought in some of the best partners and third-party help to get us to where we have to go here.
So you have like a core team internal,
Yeah,
and then you have flexible options and
correct. The
um,
core the core team is our support, and that's all been grown from within. For the most part. About 90% of that team are folks that have been with us, worked in the stores, continue to work in the stores, keep their finger on the pulse of the stores, so we're not becoming tone deaf to process and customer needs.
are you using co-pilots, things like that for development?
We do all our own development work. We have about 132 developers that sit underneath myself and team. Those are a mix of seniors and juniors across 6, 7 different stacks.
So the team is actually much bigger than 10 people.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
10 people is our corporate team, and
Okay.
that's right. And then we have different arms across multiple things from marketing to legal to PR to development.
You control your own supply chain. You're not dependent
Correct.
on anything outside of your own stores. What is the biggest concern for each one of you right now, today, or maybe in the next like immediate future?
My viewpoint, it's really just a race to educate the public. We've solved all the tech issues on the retail side, for all consumers: buy, sell, trade, data privacy, recycling. And it's really just that education. We want to make sure we're doing it in a timely fashion, getting out there properly with the right franchisees and the right stores. So the adoption is happening. It's happened. It's going to happen. To me, we just want to make sure that we're educating the public as best we can in as timely of a fashion as we can, so we can create that critical mass as soon as possible.
I think for me, it's really, laying there at night saying, hey, I could have pushed that update today and I held back because of something else. And that update allows us to get to the next update and the next update and the next update. As mentioned earlier, you need to get these things out. You need to test them. You need to put them in the field. You need to measure them, watch them. And then that turns into great things and development on top of development. It's accretive. So my worry is that we're not moving fast enough, even though we're certainly moving fast enough. But it's an insatiable, kind of feeling to be able to get these things out. And when we build things, we build them platform based. So we have probably 60, 70 different projects going in 150 different ways to make sure we're covering everything.
I think you can tie both of those into our passion and belief of what we're doing. We just want to make sure that,
Yeah.
it's moving quick enough, which we both know it is, but there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, it's obvious. And I mean, just the fact that you're both in the same office says a lot. Like these days, it's hard to find people that are like in the same office together.
not only are we in the same office, but our desks are about 4 feet from each other. So, that's that synergy that also can't be replaced, that in-person synergy and just listening and absorbing.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure meeting you and learning more about PayMore. All the best in the growth, and look forward to ringing the bell.
Yeah, we really enjoyed this discussion, Darius. Good job.
Thank you.